The Last of Us Episode 6 picks up 3 months after the deaths of Sam and Henry. We find Joel and Ellie in the wilderness, and they are trying to locate Joel's brother, Tommy. And they run into a couple in a cabin who give them directions, but warn them that there's nothing on the other side of the river but death. And of course, Joel and Ellie go anyway, because they have to. On the other side of the river, they encounter some people on horseback. As it turns out, that they come from this town that is behind walls, a walled-in town, and that is indeed where Tommy is living. The town actually seems like exactly what I would assume would have happened in the last 20 years since the outbreak. So that was good to see. It seemed like an old westy kind of place. People have created a community and life went on. In the town, we find out that Tommy is married. He apparently has a child on the way. His wife, Maria, even though she states that this is a communist community, because it is indeed a commune, she insists that nobody's actually in charge, but it really appears like she's in charge. While they are there, Ellie discovers that Joel had a daughter, Sarah, when she sees a memorial that is in Maria and Tommy's house. Maria spills the beans because she didn't know that Ellie didn't know. This gives Ellie some insight into Joel's behavior as far as her interactions with him and their relationship, and things start to make a lot more sense for her. She also overhears Joel begging Tommy to escort Ellie the rest of the way to find the Fireflies, and she is very upset by this because she feels like Joel is dumping her like everybody else has ever done in her life, either died or just left her. She's extremely upset. Joel eventually relents because it's clear that he is having attachment issues with Ellie. He seems to be exhibiting some PTSD symptoms. I think that's because he is very afraid of losing her, just as he lost Sarah. So Joel relents, and he decides that he will accompany Ellie to the university where the Fireflies are supposed to have a research center and a hospital. They indeed travel there. Once they get there, though, they discover that the hospital is abandoned, with the exception of a bunch of monkeys running around. As it turns out, there were some bandits living in the little town still. After they are attacked, it's discovered that Joel has actually been stabbed by a broken off baseball bat that one of them was using to try to fight him. At the end of the episode, we see Joel fall off the horse. He's unconscious on the ground. Ellie is beside herself because she has no idea what to do, because Joel just won't wake up. And that's where we leave off in the television series in this episode. In the game, things went a little bit differently. Some of the elements were definitely the same, but some were very different. For instance, they don't encounter any couple living in a cabin in the woods. So that was not in the video game, at least not in the cutscenes that we saw. Joel and Ellie do find Tommy, but he's at this hydroelectric station, and he's working with other people to try to get it going again so that their little town, which is nearby, has electricity again. And he does ask Tommy to take Ellie to the Fireflies in the game. However, before Joel can change his mind, Ellie steals a horse and takes off. They do find her, Tommy and Joel, ride off on horseback as well and find her. Joel decides that he will escort her to the Fireflies. They never go into the little town, so we don't see the town in the video game. We just stand above the town on the hill looking down at it, and Joel and Ellie ride off to the university and discover that it's abandoned. There are monkeys there. There are raiders there. Joel fell. It looked like there was rebar that he fell on that stabbed him right through from the back. At the end, he falls off the horse and he's unconscious. And it's very, very similar to what happened in the episode, where Joel fell off the horse and he's lying on the ground, and Ellie has no idea what to do because Joel's bleeding and he just won't wake up. I actually enjoyed this episode of the TV series a little bit more than I did the video game cutscenes, mostly because it felt like the TV series, they fleshed out the characters more. They put less time on getting the generator going and a lot more time on showing us the town, which I found interesting because I'd been wondering, where are the communities that would have sprung up, like people settling the West all over again? And we finally got to see one, and I was really glad of that.
In the TV show, I don't think they had any generator problems. When I think in the whole TV episode, Tommy just stated, oh, we have electric here too. I don't think they even mentioned they were having any generator problems.
No, we saw them ride by the hydroelectric station that was on the river that had death waiting on the other side, but it apparently was fully functioning, and no, they didn't have any electricity issues in the TV episode.
I mostly liked the TV episode more than the cutscenes we watched in the video game. And again, for somebody who may not have seen our previous videos, we did not play the video game, The Last of Us, the first one or the second one. We just have been watching YouTube compilations of cutscenes of the material. And then when we get to a point where it's at the same point, the ending point as an episode, we stop it. And then we're ready for the next week's episode to see how it matches up. So I mostly enjoyed the TV episode better than the video game. However, the Maria character, I actually preferred the video game Maria over the TV episode Maria. I don't know what it was about the character. It's just up until the very end when Maria was basically going to blame Joel, they were showing how Joel was having like these panic attacks, which at first we mistook as he was getting ready to have a heart attack because the way the visuals and the way his symptoms were. But it turns out later it was just, I don't want to say just, but it was panic attacks. And so that's why he wanted Tommy to take Ellie to the university to basically finish delivering the parcel, which was Ellie and her blood that could hopefully create a vaccine for this zombie plague. But the Maria character in the TV series, I never trusted her. I don't know if it was just the way the actress was portraying her, but she just seemed like she was angling for something all the time, where Maria in the video game seemed very upfront with what she was doing.
Well, it was clear in the TV series that she did not like Joel. She flat out stated it's because she didn't trust him because apparently he was some sort of killer. And I guess he must have manipulated Tommy into doing all of these crimes back when they were traveling from Texas, I guess, to Boston together. In the TV series, they said that she was a former deputy district attorney, so she's a cop. The way that she compartmentalized what Tommy's past was by blaming it all on Joel, it really made Tommy seem like he had no agency of his own, and he just came across like a pathetic individual, and I did not trust him at all in the TV series. I half expected him to take Ellie outside the city and like try to shoot her.
And then there's that infamous episode 3. There was a scene in that where Ellie went into the cellar. And at the time, including our review, we thought it was just product placement for something. And we just it wasn't in the video game. We just kind of said, well, okay, it was product placement. They introduced a similar concept here. Same subject matter.
Oh, let's just get to it. Why in the hell in episode 3, okay, yeah, product placement, and she's a 14-year-old girl. She found a box of tampons. Hell yeah, you're going to pocket that. However, in this episode, Maria gifts her with a menstrual cup. Like, why are we so obsessed with Ellie's bodily functions? I mean, this just seems really bizarre. It makes me very suspicious of what the writers are doing there. Like, what the hell is wrong with you people? Why are you making such a big deal about Ellie's bodily functions? It really, really rubbed me the wrong way. And I could go at length as to what really pissed me off about it, but I don't think anybody needs to really hear that. The other thing is that, and this goes along with that, it just feels like the Ellie in the video game, she is a much more capable character than the Ellie that we're getting in the TV series.
She was Ellie when Joel got impaled on that whatever it was after he fell off the ledge wrestling with that guy, and he was barely getting around. Ellie took her handgun. She was killing people and protecting Joel.
Oh yeah, she must have killed like 5 raiders. That is not how she is in the television series. And I don't know if it's because in the TV series they're uncomfortable with having a 14-year-old girl who is very capable with a gun and can take care of herself and other people. However, this is the same network that made Game of Thrones. In fact, the girl who plays Ellie was on Game of Thrones. So I don't understand why they would be so reticent to show her in a very capable light when it comes to self-protection and the protection of others. It just seems really weird to me.
I did enjoy, in both the video game and the TV episode, the scene where Ellie was basically admitting to Joel that everybody she ever knew has either died or walked away from her. And that's the reason she was, when Joel suggested Tommy would be the better choice to escort her to the university hospital. And Ellie was freaking out about that. In the TV show, she was just freaking out, but she didn't run away. In the video game, she actually ran away after that conversation of Tommy's taking you. And then in both TV and video game, when Joel met up with her again in a bedroom, and the scenes in both the TV and the video game were pretty much the same. Even the blocking of the scene was pretty much the same, with Ellie next to that window, sitting down, reading a book, going through the book, and the dialogue was almost identical. But by her basically admitting that, Joel, the reason that I don't want Tommy taking me has to do with everybody in my life has left me or have died. And so she was admitting she was bonding with Joel.
Yeah, she was sitting there reading the girl's diary from before the plague. And it comes down to she trusted Joel. She wasn't scared when she was with him. And
in both the video game and the TV show, I thought that whole exchange between them was really good. And then in the TV show at the end, what it was I guess it was the next morning, Ellie was all packed up, ready to go, and Tommy went up to her room and said, let's go. They went downstairs to the stable to get a horse. Joel was there, and Joel's like, well, I was just going to take a horse and leave, but I couldn't. And so he essentially was going to take Ellie. They got on the horse. Joel got on the horse, and then Ellie behind him, and then Ellie and Joel took the horse and went away. But as Ellie was hanging, because Joel was in the front of the horse and Ellie was sitting behind him, you could see in the TV show, like, Ellie had her arms wrapped around him, and you could tell that she felt comforted by being there with Joel instead of Tommy. And nothing against Tommy, it's just she was seeing Joel as kind of a father figure there. You could just see that right there. Mm-hmm. In both the video game and in the TV show, that was a really well done set of scenes where the blow up happened about Ellie, and then Joel even said, well, you're not my daughter and I'm not your father. And that really hurt Ellie when you could see in her eyes that it hurt her. So this was another really good set of scenes here. In fact, this episode, even though there were parts of it that I was like, not that I disliked, but I'm like, well, okay, like the one Maria over the other Maria, little nitpicks like that. But this was much like last week's with Henry and Sam, this was a really good episode. It had good human moments that were going on here. This is exactly why we started watching this series on episode 1. We've been enjoying most of this series, and this is yet another good episode that I think that people should watch. The Ellie and Joel exchange, for no other reason, that was a really good set of scenes there between those two.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode, in spite of the weird obsession with Ellie's bodily functions. With the exception of that third episode, which I explained in the third episode video as to why I didn't care for it. I'm really enjoying this series. I can understand why people who played the video game might not like it as much as I do, because there are a lot of departures, but for the most part, I think it's keeping with the spirit of the video game. So we'll just have to wait and see where the series goes when it's completed. But so far, I am really enjoying myself. So, did any of you watch this latest episode of The Last of Us? If you did, what were your thoughts on that? Definitely put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.
Take care.